I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwise Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show, we have Yair Klepper, founder and CEO of Lava Network. Yair, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for hosting me. So excited to be here.
You're very welcome. Let's start off our conversation with, I'm curious a little bit on your background in blockchain and technology and how that led to you starting Lava Network, and then we'll dive into all the Lava Network details.
Great. So my background is techie. I studied computer engineering in a special program in the Army. And, since I was young, entrepreneurship was, I think, in my blood. I founded several startups, had two exits. And, I was always skeptical about crypto. It's, on the one hand, very interests me, cryptography, the future of finance, but I think that earlier applications of crypto always seemed like fake currency, pump and dumps, stuff like that. But I had strong faith. I had really strong friends in the space, and I always heard also good stories. So 1.5 years ago, I decided to step in with my co-founder Gil, and we started by doing NFT sniping, MEV. So both us, we both has a very strong, background in cybersecurity, and we realized that once we're doing that, the promise, the values, and everything that brought us to Web3 was not as decentralized as it claimed to be, as we thought. And I think that in general, not only Web3 is no decentralized claim, but it's also have a lot of problems around performance, infrastructure. And this is what really brought me to build Lava. We thought, how come the core infrastructure is centralized? And what actually we can bring from our experience, our background, to build something that can scale up the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Great point, and thank you for that background, Yair. From what I understand, there are quite a few applications that are running that, everything's touted as decentralized, but there's also a lot of Web 2 infrastructure and, apps hosted on Amazon Web Services. But even the protocols themselves, each blockchain, whether it's Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain or Solana, the way that they run the nodes, they're all completely different. And I think it's not a true blanket statement to say everything is decentralized. I know you probably know more about the decentralization of each sort of network. I'm curious on what exactly Lava does in this and how does it increase the decentralization?
So I think most of the things today are not decentralized, and that's what I learned in the last the journey I have with Lava. Lava is pretty new. We founded that last April, but from the get-go we realized that the term that is relevant for what we're doing, what's most of the centralization point is RPC. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you look at RPC, it's basically a communication protocol that is required for fetching data, sending or reading data and transaction from the blockchain. Mm-hmm. And you need it for all the most basic actions there. So getting account balance, deploying the smart contract, gas prices, everything like that. But in general, I think you can get all the information there by wallet balance, and you think that the way you do that is actually should be simple. And at the beginning of crypto, it was simple because everyone was running their own node and get access to the blockchain. But when the blockchain adoption grew up, it didn't make sense and it's impractical to run a node. So basically, you need to rely on the centralized provider that actually reduce the barrier to entry for all of the blockchain. They said something very simple. They said, you don't need to run the node anymore, and you can trust us from fetching and bringing you the data. But you mentioned a bit Web 2, and for us it felt like patching a Web 2 solution to Web 3, and it's kind of not solving the problem. That's creating much more new gaps. And as I mentioned before, the values of Web 2. What about privacy, middlemen, single point of failure, censorship, and at the end of the day, if you trust a middleman, you don't know the data. It's not yours first, and you don't know the data is actually from the blockchain.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. And I think for people that don't run a node, which is most people, or they don't really understand the details in mining, it can get a bit confusing. But I think you explained it well there on not everyone is running a node like back in the old days when people had Bitcoin and it was easy to run your own node. So you're sort of relying on the people that have the infrastructure. They already have a node. And from what I understand with RPC, the R is a relay where you relay information from those nodes that are set up. They're saying, trust us, we'll do the decentralization, we'll do the node part. You just get some of the information on what you need. Is that how it works?
So RPC, almost relay, it's a remote procedure call. And it's a simple API that's used to interact with the computer. It's used to interact with the network. Obviously, in order to run a node, you need to receive the consensus. You need to do a few infrastructure things that takes a lot of resources, consumes time, and as we already agreed, doesn't make sense. You want to focus on your business. You don't want to focus on maintaining an infrastructure. Whether you had small dApp, big dApp, or medium one, you want to use your resources not by trusting several centralized providers. You want to trust a single provider that you're sure the data is reliable. And that's what we hear so many times now since we came up with the testnet 1 month ago. We heard that this need is actually met in the reality. It's not even every second dApp, it's every dApp. So there are in general two different trends right now. RPC becoming a commodity. So there's a lot of providers. If 2 years ago you had 5 big providers, now you have hundreds of providers. And it's becoming a commodity. And the second trend is that dApps do not trust the infrastructure. They run few in parallel. They do benchmarking. They do load balancing, backups for the time that some of the centralized provider is down. What do you do? How you give service? How do you see the your wallet balance, right? So if you cannot give a good service to the user, they will not use you. And this is the big discrepancy that we believe Lava is solving.
So when a user starts to use Lava Network, does it actually spin up a node for them, or how does the technology increase the decentralization and trust?
So let's talk a bit what is Lava. We look at Lava as kind of a decentralized network of top tier RPC and API providers, and developers can subscribe to get access to any top provider, which means access to any blockchain. And we look at that as a one-stop shop. We are a network. We are L1 that anyone can join permissionlessly to the network. Providers need to stake Lava. So it's the first time that they are held accountable for the infrastructure and for not manipulating even someone. So for example, if provider stakes to create these guarantees that they will offer high quality of service, we believe that this is actually the right equilibrium to maintain such benefits of the network. And because anyone can join the network permissionlessly. So you received a couple of benefits that you never had before. You received high network redundancy that leads to almost 100% uptime for users. If one provider is down, dApps automatically paired to a new provider. And this is how they don't need to think or even implement this kind of component in their infra. By the way, they're doing today. Any provider can join. So basically, it's a community-led protocol and offer to access any chains via any API. Lava is a free form, and this is the second great benefits. The third is that the network creates market dynamics between the providers. So user can get the best price from the provider, and they don't need to start doing market research. Provider will start competing between themselves to offer the best, highest level of service, because they know they constantly being scored on that, because they know there is a transparency about how was their service. That's what they meant to do from the get-go, and this is what Lava enables them to do.
Okay, great explanation. And when you say they can connect with any chain, I'm curious on what is the most in demand, and out of all these different blockchains, they have different consensuses and different ways that they're running. So what are people most looking to connect to? I'm curious, out of all the different protocols.
You mean like what chains we see?
Yeah.
So eventually the highest volume you have is on Ethereum currently. But you see a lot of activity, obviously, on the other EVM-based chains, L2s, and there's a lot of hype around several other, blockchains out there. We just getting started, and eventually, Lava is being built on Cosmos SDK Tendermint, and that's our home. So we started on supporting all the chains and projects on Cosmos. So we're working with them, they invested in us, but eventually we said we're gonna support any EVM-based chains. Since we first launched, we see a huge demand coming from everywhere, coming from non-EVM chains, coming from L2s, as I mentioned before. And I cannot mention right now a certain activity because the ecosystems, we support the multi-chain, right? We support wherever a dApp wants to find a home, we're going to allow them to get to this home without the need to spin up a node. Think about us as the Uber for nodes. So we're connecting dApps, which are the users, the passengers, to the taxis, to the node provider, to the node infrastructure, and constantly scoring the service. So the vision is to give them reliability, good pricing, obviously it's a bear market, indexing and rich APIs, and obviously privacy, that they don't get it today with the centralized providers. If you're a dApp, usually you start on one chain, and if you want to expand to other chains, you can do it with one subscription. You're already in Lava. Lava supports today 20 chains, and in the future we support all Web3. So we want to have the migration process to dApps that wants to expand to other chains seamless as possible.
That's a great analogy, the Uber in blockchain. I like it here. And you mentioned at the beginning that you guys are fairly early on, and there's still a lot of connections to make to different chains and to grow into the mainnet. I'm curious on where you guys are at right now, and what are the next steps that need to be taken to reach the mainnet launch?
So, as we are early in the process, we bringing a lot of knowledge from our past experience in open source, in developer tools, in building successful startups, selling them even in some cases. And I think that I never experienced what is a community. I never experienced what is this super high pace growth that we're experiencing right now. So we founded Lava in April, and during half a year, we were already passing 30 people. Today with 38 people, 25 engineers, the best team I ever worked with, bringing so much talent of people that actually we have 9x co-founders and CTOs in Lava. And this is so exciting to see such a strong people believe in the vision, believe in what they're building, and see the huge potential that is here. We launched our testnet and production-ready service 1 month ago. We're currently onboarding dApps that want to test for the testnet, for the testing environment. And at the same time, we are paying dApps for the services that really want to experience, a high reliability and all the benefits that we bring here in Lava. Currently, we're building 24/7 towards releasing our Lava SDK and mainnet in the second half of the year. Our roadmap looks like, we have on-chain subscription, which I mentioned a bit before. It's a super important concept that we're bringing kind of the SaaS from Web 2 to Web 3. It's a one-stop shop that we know on the one hand, decentralization is very seen as difficult to use, and people don't want to always use a token. So we made it easy by letting any currency being paid on Lava, but from a decentralized service. So that's what I mentioned, is bringing SaaS to Lava. We're looking about rich APIs. So we start with RPC because it's the core element. But obviously today, there are a lot of demand about caching, indexing, NFTs APIs, and we're working on that. And the last thing is the Lava SDK, which is a bit more technical. But imagine that every dApp doesn't need to go through a system that connects him to the driver, if we're talking about the Uber. Imagine that your phone is actually in the backend connected from the browser to all the best providers, to all the best chains, but in a one-stop shop. And this is, I think, the real vision of Lava.
Wow. I'm looking forward to that next steps for the launch. What is the best way to follow along for the updates as they happen and to learn more about what people can do when they connect with Lava Network?
So I think, we have a great community that's formed, more than 10,000 members already. People translated that to more than 11 languages. We're in Discord. So the main socials, we use the Twitter, we use the Medium channels, the Discord, and different channels. Try great podcasts like what we're doing today. We're trying to be very attentive and be like 24/7 available. The team is spread all around the world, so time zone it's not an issue, and we are welcoming developers to join. We're gonna announce a Voyager program for dApps that we're able to support their growth from a small dApp and give them DevRel support, give them better CU pricing, and do a co-marketing strategy. At the same time, we are going to announce about bounties that, developers that really wants to do pull request and help us build the vision, help us build Lava. Lava, after all, is a community-led protocol. It's a public good. Everyone can contribute. And this is the paradigm shift we're doing here. So I'm inviting everyone who's watching that, approach me, even LinkedIn. I know it's a Web 2, but I'm there. So any channel is reach out.
Sounds great, Yair. And I can leave the link to the Discord and just the platform and socials as well to connect with you in the description box below. All the best with these continued efforts. I think this is a great contribution towards the Web3 ecosystem. Looking forward to the steps towards the mainnet launch. So let's definitely follow up in the near future.
Perfect. Yeah. If I can just finish with the key messages that I want to leave the audience. I think that what we're building today in Lava is the most reliable provider on the market by using decentralization and align incentives. So we're not just an RPC, we are an open source that can support any API, and we're building the support for multi-chain. Everyone using a one standard to build eventually on any chain. And thank you so much for hosting me here and letting us continue spreading the word.
Thank you, Yair.